For over 70 years, the game of basketball was a prisoner of geometry. If you look back at the history of the NBA, from the days of George Mikan in the 1950s to the dominance of Shaquille O'Neal in the early 2000s, the sport was dictated by one simple, unshakable law: the closer you are to the rim, the higher your value. This wasn't just a strategy, it was a mathematical certainty. The league was built on the backs of giants. It was a game of post-ups, back-to-the-basket maneuvers, and physical bruisers who fought for every inch of paint. If you were a small guard who shot from long distance, you were considered a luxury or a specialist, but never the engine of a championship team. Then, an anomaly appeared. Stephen Curry didn't just break the rules of basketball. He rendered the old map of the court completely useless. Imagine a map where the borders suddenly vanish. That is what happened to the NBA when Curry began hitting shots from 30, 35, and 40 feet with the same efficiency that others hit layups. He created what scientists call a singularity in physics. A singularity is a point where the laws of nature cease to exist. In basketball, Curry was that point. He created a reality where the defense no longer knew where the danger zone started. For 70 years, the danger zone was the paint. Because of Curry, the danger zone now starts the moment a player steps off the team bus. This is the scary truth. Steph Curry didn't just improve the game. He destroyed the logic that the game was built on. The most terrifying part of the Stephen Curry story is how close it came to being a tragedy. Before the MVPs, before the 4 rings, and before the global fame, there was the ankle era. Between 2010 and 2012, Curry's career was a recurring nightmare of surgical tape and medical boots. His ankles weren't just weak, they were fundamentally broken. Every time he crossed over, every time he landed after a jumper, the entire Golden State fan base held their breath. We saw him crumble to the floor time and again, his face twisted in a mixture of agony and frustration. But here is the investigative depth that people miss. This fragility is actually what built the Warriors dynasty. Because his medical future was so uncertain, Curry signed a 4-year, $40 million contract extension in 2012. At the time, critics called it a risky gamble on a player who might be forced into early retirement. That contract, however, became the patient zero for the greatest team of all time. Because Curry was so vastly underpaid for his actual production, the Warriors had an unprecedented salary cap surplus. This allowed them to afford Draymond Green, Klay Thompson, and eventually the monstrous signing of Kevin Durant. If Steph Curry had been healthy from day one, he would have signed a max contract. The Warriors would have been broke, and the dynasty would never have existed. The scary truth is that the most dominant team in modern history was built on the back of a chronic injury. We often hear that Steph Curry is the greatest shooter, but we rarely talk about the scary science behind it. Most NBA players shoot with a 2-motion shot. They jump, reach the apex of their leap, and then release the ball. It is a powerful, rhythmic movement. Curry, however, uses a 1-motion shot. He releases the ball while he is still moving upward. This creates a release speed of 0.4 seconds. To put that in perspective, the human brain takes about 0.2 seconds just to react to a visual stimulus. By the time a defender's brain sends the signal to his hand to jump and block, the ball is already halfway to the rim. But the science goes deeper. Curry's accuracy comes from his kinetic chain. Because he couldn't rely on his ankles, he learned to generate all his power from his hips and glutes. He is a master of transferring energy. We see him hitting shots while fading away or stumbling, and we think it's luck. It's not. It's a level of hand-eye coordination and core stability that borders on the superhuman. He has trained his nervous system to calculate the distance to the rim regardless of his body's angle. He isn't playing basketball. He's performing high-level physics in real time. Guarding him isn't a test of athleticism. It's an exercise in futility. You are trying to stop a process that is literally faster than your nervous system's ability to respond. For decades, the NBA was an ecosystem designed for the big man. If you were 7 feet tall, you were at the top of the food chain. Players like Roy Hibbert and Drew Bogut and Joakim Noah were all-stars because they could protect the rim. But when Curry reached his prime, he became an invasive species that hunted these giants for sport. He popularized the high pick-and-roll in a way that forced these slow-footed centers to come out to the three-point line. This was a massacre. Watching a 7-footer try to guard Steph Curry on the perimeter is like watching a skyscraper try to chase a lightning bolt. He would dance in front of them, put them in a blender with his ball handling, and then launch a shot over their heads before they could even react. This led to what we now call the extinction. Within 3 years, the traditional center disappeared from the NBA. Teams stopped drafting them. Players who had spent their whole lives mastering the post-up were suddenly out of a job. Curry didn't just win games. He destroyed an entire class of athletes. He made size a liability. He changed the very definition of what an NBA body is supposed to look like. The scary truth is that Curry's success came at the cost of hundreds of millions of dollars in lost contracts for the league's giants. If you watch a Warriors game and only look at the person with the ball, you are missing the most terrifying part of Steph Curry. It's called gravity. In the history of the league, we have never seen a player who draws so much defensive attention without the ball. When Curry runs across the court, he creates a vacuum. 2, sometimes 3 defenders will instinctively chase him, leaving their own man wide open. This is why players like Draymond Green can lead the league in assists. It's because Curry's presence creates power plays all over the court. Coaches describe the mental exhaustion of playing against Curry. You can't rest for a single second. Most stars stop being a threat once they pass the ball. Curry becomes more dangerous once he passes it. He begins a series of relentless off-ball cuts, looping around screens at full speed. It is a psychological war of attrition. He thins out the defense, creates confusion, and forces communication breakdowns. He breaks the opponent's defensive IQ. By the fourth quarter, the defenders are so mentally and physically drained from chasing him that they simply give up. This isn't just basketball. It's a marathon where the other guy is allowed to ride a bicycle. The final scary truth is the impact Curry has had on the future of the sport. We call it the Curry curse because he makes the impossible look so easy. He has fundamentally changed how the next generation learns to play. Walk into any local park or high school gym, and you won't see kids practicing their footwork or their layups. You see 12-year-olds shooting from the logo. The fundamentals of the game are being abandoned in favor of the high-volume 3. Analysts argue that the NBA has become homogenized because everyone is trying to copy the Curry formula. Every team now plays the same way. The mid-range game is dead. The post game is dead. The diversity of playing styles that made the 80s and 90s so iconic has been replaced by a math-driven obsession with the three-point shot. Is the game better, or has Curry's brilliance made the sport more predictable and boring for the average fan? We are witnessing the uniformity of basketball. Steph is a miracle, but his legacy might be a league that has lost its soul to the three-point line. In the end, Stephen Curry remains a paradox. He is the most relatable superstar in history because he isn't 6'10" and he can't jump over the backboard, but he is also the most unreachable because his skill level is a freak of nature. He is a warning that the game will never go back to the way it was. He is the man who pulled the floor out from under the NBA and left everyone else scrambling to catch up. Are we witnessing a miracle, or are we watching the final days of the basketball we once loved? One thing is certain, the chef didn't just cook the competition. He burned down the kitchen and built a new world on top of the embers. And that is the scary truth about prime Steph Curry.